This is the MEGAWHEELS Peak 1500W. I just wanted to share my experience with this in case anyone else is considering it. I have been riding it for regular errands, short commutes, and a couple longer rides on mixed pavement and rough paths. The kind of person I think this makes sense for is someone who wants a moped-style electric bike feel, likes a relaxed upright position, and wants enough power to handle hills without turning every ride into a workout. It is also a decent fit if you live in an apartment or anywhere you need to bring the battery inside to charge. What makes it interesting to me is the overall vibe and the way it rides. It sits lower than a typical mountain bike. It has wide tires that take the edge off bad streets, and it has a throttle that feels more like a small motorbike than a bicycle. I also like the step-through frame more than I expected. I am around 6 feet tall, and getting on and off is just easy. When I have a backpack on, or I am stopping a lot in traffic, I notice that convenience every time. In person, it looks like a compact mope-shaped frame with fat tires. The tires are 20 inches and very wide, and they do a lot for stability. The frame feels solid when I pick it up and when I ride it, and the finish on mine is a matte black that does not show dust as much as glossy paint usually does. The handlebar is a little wider than what I am used to on a city bike, which helps when the road gets rough or when I am riding slower and balancing through tight spots. The grips feel fine in the hand, not squishy, not cheap, just normal and usable. The saddle is brown and has that old-school look. It is not a couch. It is firm. On my first ride, I noticed it right away, and I thought I might end up swapping it. After a few rides, I got used to it, and I stopped thinking about it. I still would not call it plush, but it does feel supportive, and I can see it holding up over time. If you are sensitive to firm seats, you will probably want a cover. Putting it together was not a big project, but it was not completely effortless either. Mine arrived mostly assembled. I had to install the front wheel, the handlebar, the pedals, and a few smaller pieces. If you have used basic tools, you will be fine. The only part that slowed me down was the shifting. Out of the box, the gears were not perfectly dialed in. It would not cleanly hit every gear at first. I did a quick adjustment on the cable tension, and after that it shifted through all 7 gears normally. That kind of thing does not bother me, but if you have never adjusted a shifter before, it might take a little patience or a quick search video. In daily use, the first thing you notice is the weight. This is not a light bicycle. I can move it around the garage and roll it up to a door, no problem. Carrying it upstairs is a different story. If you live in a walk-up, I would think carefully about where you will store it, because lifting it is awkward. The weight does help while riding, though. Once it is moving, it feels planted. It does not feel twitchy, and the wide tires help it track straight even on rough pavement. The way it rides is what I enjoyed most. The power comes on quickly when you use the throttle, and it does not feel like it struggles when you point it uphill. I weigh a little over 200 pounds, and on the hills near my place that normally slow down weaker electric bikes, this one kept its speed without me having to stand up and grind the pedals. When I am just cruising around the neighborhood, I often ride with light pedal assist and use the throttle to get through intersections or up short, steep sections. That is where it feels most natural. Speed-wise, it comes set up to behave like a typical street-legal electric bike, and that is what I used most of the time. There is a way to unlock a higher top speed if you follow the instructions, and I tried it briefly on an empty straight road just to see how it behaves. It can get into the low 30s in miles per hour, and at that point the bike is moving fast enough that you start thinking more about road conditions, tire pressure, and braking distance. It did not feel out of control, but I personally do not ride at that speed very often. For me, the useful part is the torque and the hill climbing, not trying to ride it like a motorcycle all the time. The suspension and tires do real work on this bike. The front fork takes the sting out of cracks, potholes, and broken pavement. The fat tires smooth out a lot too, especially at slightly lower tire pressure. I rode it over gravel paths, some uneven patches, and a little sand just to see what would happen. It stayed stable, and it did not feel like it wanted to wash out easily. I would not treat it like a dirt bike, but for shortcuts through parks, rough alleys, and bad city streets, it is comfortable. When I grab the brakes hard, the front fork does dip a bit, which is normal for this type of setup. Braking is one area where I was paying close attention because the bike is heavy and it can move quickly. The hydraulic disc brakes feel strong and predictable. I can slow down with 2 fingers, and it does not feel like I am begging the bike to stop. I tested it on a quiet road by building speed and doing controlled stops. It stayed straight, and I did not get that sketchy feeling you sometimes get on cheaper mechanical brakes. It is still a heavy bike, so you need to give yourself space, but I felt comfortable once I got used to it. The battery setup is practical. It is removable and it locks in place. That matters if you park outside or you do not have an outlet near where you store the bike. I brought the battery inside to charge more than once, and it is the kind of thing that sounds minor until you actually live with it. Charging from low to full takes several hours, so I usually charge overnight. For range, I found it depends heavily on how much you use the throttle and how fast you ride. When I ride with pedal assist and keep the speed reasonable, I can go a long time between charges. When I ride mostly on throttle and push speed, the battery drops faster, like you would expect. In my own use, it lined up with what I consider normal for a battery around 750 watt-hours. It is enough for errands and commutes without constantly thinking about charging, as long as you are not treating it like a motorcycle every ride. The display and controls are simple, and that is a good thing. I can see speed, battery level, and assist mode without squinting. Changing modes is straightforward. There is a throttle-only feel when you want it, and pedal assist when you want the bike to help while you still pedal. The 7-speed shifting is useful for keeping the cadence comfortable, especially if you are trying to extend range or if you want to pedal along at higher speed without spinning out. Lighting is good enough for real riding. The headlight is bright enough that I feel seen, and it also helps me see the road in front of me at night, at least on neighborhood streets. The rear brake light is noticeable when I squeeze the brakes, which is what I want with cars behind me. The horn is loud. I used it a few times when a car started creeping into my lane while I was passing, and it got attention. One thing I want to be honest about is size. The frame shape is long and it takes up space. If you have a tight storage area or you rely on crowded bike racks, you will notice it. Turning it around in a narrow hallway is annoying. Also, while the step-through frame is convenient, the bike still feels like a heavy object when you are moving it by hand. Rolling it is fine. Lifting it is the problem. I also rode it in light drizzle once. It was fine, nothing went wrong, and the tires actually felt more confident than narrow tires usually do. Still, I do not treat any electric bike like it is meant to live in heavy rain every day. I wipe it down, I avoid deep puddles, and I do not leave it soaked. That is just me trying to avoid long-term electrical issues. After living with it for a bit, my overall impression is that it is a practical Moped-Style electric bike that feels stable, has strong acceleration, and handles rough pavement better than a normal commuter bike. The trade-offs are the weight, the space it takes up, and the fact that the seat is on the firm side. If those are not deal breakers for your situation, it is a bike I have genuinely enjoyed riding because it makes hills and bad roads less of a chore. Check the comments of this video for a link to see the current pricing of the MEGAWHEELS Peak 1500W.